It is Tuesday, June 11th. I am your host, joined as always by StatPat Stateless Patriot. We are lefties in Cali, chilling with you. Gonna talk some politics, gonna talk some culture. How are you today, StatPat?
Good. Damn, it's freaking hot. I'm not ready for this heat. It was like 103 degrees today, and working outside in that heat's not exactly the most pleasant.
Oh, you were outside all day?
Yeah, my primary job requires it. You know, I'm a
Oh man,
service
that's gonna be
service
tough this summer.
yeah service technician, so I'm outside of houses and whatnot working. Um, so yeah, I like to occupy as much time as possible in my work vehicle. You know, sucking up that sweet air conditioning.
Mm-hmm. Right on, right on.
Yeah.
Well, we did have some big news today about Hunter Biden, the president's son.
Witch hunt.
Scandal, scandal, scandal.
Witch hunt.
Uh, he got caught up in gun charges. He was convicted. Biden's already on the record saying he's not going to pardon him.
And he
I'm
shouldn't.
sure there are other charges that are against him. I could not care less about this case. I don't think
Yeah.
America cares about this case. I don't
Right.
think it's going to have any effect on the election. Everybody knows this guy's just a fuck up. He's just a fuck up. And poor
Yeah.
guy, I feel sorry for him. I
Yeah.
feel sorry for him at the end of the day, really.
Yeah. Ultimately, I mean, he's just. This would. eh, he would not be getting the attention that he's getting right now, and has been for the past 3-4 years, if it wasn't for the Republicans' utter sheer desperation, just digging and digging into the Bidens, looking for anything, and throwing anything against the wall and hoping that it sticks. And they all basically came to the same conclusion. Screw it, let's do his crackhead son. Like
Yeah.
he did something with a Ukrainian firm, and therefore Joe Biden is complicit with uh, quid pro quo this and that. Nothing seems to stick. But like I guess this would satisfy them somewhat. Of course they're not. A conviction doesn't really mean too much, because like all Hunter Biden is to the Republicans is a scapegoat. It's just like the border. Oh well, if Hunter Biden goes to jail, we can't utilize him as a scapegoat anymore, and fearmonger about like corruption with the Bidens and whatnot. And that especially rings true if Joe Biden doesn't even pardon him, because it's like, what does that tell you?
It seems to me like Hunter Biden is an example of classic right wing American politics in the Trump era. And actually, this predates the Trump era. This kind of stuff was going on long before Trump was around. It's just been shameless
Yeah,
by contrast to the old days. The old days, there used to be some grounds for really going after a politician's kid,
yeah, for
but
real.
you knew it was going to happen this time. You just knew it. And Hunter, my heart goes out to him, man, because I know he deals with some shit, and no one really understands it but him. I mean, when you're the kid of
Right.
someone powerful and famous that was associated with the Obama administration too, I mean, you're kind of in the circles of the liberal elite, I would say.
Yeah, yeah, no kidding. You're around power and fame for, basically since birth. I mean, even putting like uh,
Yeah, well, Biden was
Biden
elected to
as
the
a
Senate
senator.
when he was
Yeah,
29, right?
exactly. Yeah,
29, I think. 29. Yeah,
yeah,
I think
and
it was
before that,
29.
he was a congressman.
Right.
But yeah, yeah,
So the Biden family though has its plate full with the Hunter conviction, combined with the anti-Israel protests at the White House, which are significant and very visible. And we should talk about the latest on Israel Gaza. Have you taken a look at the latest numbers? I'm sure they're not accurate, but
there's some numbers, because the only numbers I've actually been following when it comes to Gaza is Euro Med Monitor, and I think they're like actually last updated in March, as far as I know.
I just tried Googling it and it says only the Israel casualties. I said there's latest casualties in Gaza war, and it says the latest figure on the number of deaths in the October. Oh, okay, it's just October 7th. Anyway,
Right.
Israel, Gaza, it's a mess. Netanyahu is coming to speak to Congress July 24th, about the week after the Republican convention ends. So this is going to be wild. I hope he gets booed. It's definitely going to get protested.
Yeah.
I think that there's going to be a mass exodus, and
I hope so.
I don't think the DNC realizes how many people of Arab descent live near Chicago,
That's where
within
it's taking
driving
place.
distance of Chicago. That's where the national convention's going to be
And that's
in
where he's-
August.
That's where he's speaking.
No. So Netanyahu is speaking to a joint session of Congress.
Okay. I was
But
about to
I'm
say.
saying, yeah.
But at the convention, yeah. Regardless, like there will be those protests at the convention. Yeah. I would hope, like, yeah, they should make it easy for the convention taking place in Chicago, as well as Netanyahu's appearance in Congress. They've even spoken about the potential possibility of bringing, just making the entire convention digital, and just streaming it, something like that. Just
The
save.
entire convention?
That's what I've heard. Just to save the avoid the protests,
money?
basically.
Right.
Like so they don't have to deal with it, because like it's just gonna get interrupted, and they don't have to deal with it. I mean, I don't think it's really going to happen. They have like security detail for a reason, and they know how to like actually get the streets cleared and whatnot. It's unfortunate, but I think that idea has been floated. I forget where I heard it though.
All right. So Nazi Netanyahu speaking to a joint session of Congress July 24th, which is the week after the RNC convention, and then you're going to have probably 3 weeks, I guess, until the DNC convention, and then actually 4 weeks. So you're going to end up, this Israel Gaza thing is going to saturate the media from late July into August, and if they don't get their heads about them, they're going to see huge protests at the convention. Period.
No,
They're
yeah.
going to see huge protests at the convention. I was talking with someone who's connected in the Democratic Party, and she seemed kind of oblivious to the possibility of huge protests going down at the DNC convention in Chicago this summer. I'm like,
How do you
you
not
know,
this?
there's a lot of people from Middle Eastern descent up there in Wisconsin and Michigan and
even
all those places.
even aside from Middle Eastern descent, young people. There's a lot of people in Chicago to begin with, and it's a very left leaning.
It is a young town.
Progressive city, yeah. So you're gonna have a huge turnout by all walks of life that at least lean progressive, like young and old. Honestly, it's gonna be a total mess. Like I really
Probably.
don't think they know what's coming from them to them come the convention.
All right, so I got 2 viewers, so we should move on to our meat and potatoes for this week.
Okay.
Will America vote for a convicted felon? And are anti-Trump Republicans approachable? So first question, can Trump still win as a convicted felon? I believe he can.
Yeah, I do too.
I don't think anything's going to catch up to him in time. Nothing
only-
else is going to catch up to him in time.
Not only that, the hypocrisy knows no bounds. The only 2 legs, well, I mean, because people have 2 legs, that Republicans have to stand on are hypocrisy and double standards. Like, they can't operate or function without those 2 things. And the base just goes along with whatever. It really is a cult mentality
Yeah.
They're incapable of seeing
But let's
like the hypocrisy in their stances. It's like, oh, you can shout all you want about your opponents, about the Democrats or whatever, going to jail for whatever you think they're guilty of, but Trump is found guilty by a jury that his own lawyers approved of, and that's a witch hunt. That's all rigged. 34 felony counts. Like, okay, like they're just incapable of seeing reason anymore. I really do think that they're just detached from reality and just too far gone. You know?
Yeah, when they say Trump derangement syndrome, they're not talking about people who hate Trump. They're talking about his followers.
They're not
That's
they're
what
talking about
the
themselves.
Trump derangement syndrome is. And the snowflakes are actually the conservatives. They're the ones who are
Yeah.
hypersensitive and can't deal with being called stupid white trash, which is what they are if
For
they're
real.
gun-toting, Confederate flag-waving, Bible-beating gun nuts. I mean, let's be
Yeah.
serious. There's 50 million of them. There's at least 50 million adults are Confederate flag-waving, Bible-beating gun nuts. That's a lot.
Yeah,
That
all
is a
over the
lot. That's a
country.
lot of countries. That's bigger than a lot of countries.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, no kidding. And I mean, given that so many of them still like go out and vote, because like that's actually a good like well-rounded number, because like on top of that, like what Trump got like 75 million votes last election, like on
That's how I did the math, yeah.
yeah, on top of that are just people who just go along to get along. Like, oh well, I mean, I voted Republican all my life. I may not like Trump very much, but I'd rather see him win than Joe Biden or whatever. You know, like it. It's like we've talked about multiple times on this channel. It's the team sport mentality. You know, they really do
Right.
see it as a team sport.
Why are conservatives not creative, StatBat?
Oh well,
First of all, do you think Hollywood excludes conservatives because of their ideology or because they suck at creativity?
oh, they suck at creativity. Like
Right. So
they're-
why are conservatives not more creative?
That's actually a really good question. It's because like none of them are really original. They just follow the their own like dogma. They're high on their own supplies, so to speak. You know.
I think conservatives aren't creative because they're not empathetic. And the
Yes.
purpose of creativity is to express oneself so that others might be able to relate what you were feeling at the time you created the art, whether it be a sculpture or a painting or a movie or a TV show or a photograph. You want to exude the emotions of the moment, and conservatives are very out of touch with their emotions. So, I am starting a new series called Why Aren't Conservatives Creative?
Yeah.
And I'm going to go after Ben Shapiro and his frustrated creativity, because he's a good example of someone who is creative but never had the humility to learn how to nurture it
Right.
by learning from other established creative people. Ben Shapiro is what you call a know-it-all. Yeah, he was good at school and good to go to Harvard Law. Could he have gotten into an elite film school program? I think he tried, actually. I'm pretty sure he tried. And I know he failed because he didn't go. And his first passion was screenwriting.
Yeah,
So
and
I'm
not-
gonna
not to
watch his
mention-
reviews of. I'm gonna watch his reviews of Dune, as well as some other stuff. Barbie, which he hated on, which I was thrilled with Barbie because I know it fell short in some respects. It's not. There's no such thing as a perfect movie, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But if you don't like Barbie, then you're not going to like anything that comes out of Hollywood that's super commercial, because that's the best that they can do. That
Right.
really is honestly the best Hollywood can do, is what they did with Barbie.
Yeah, they knocked it out of the park. It was fresh. It was
Yeah,
like
Shapiro hated it
yeah. It's like
because he
you said
sucks. He has no
before.
taste.
Yeah, and he also he is quoted as saying literally, and I have an old video on my channel about this. that he considers empathy to be stupid. You know, and that really says it all. It's like, wow, it's no wonder
If someone
Hollywood
can,
rejected you.
if someone considers empathy to be stupid, that person is a sociopath.
Yeah.
Meaning that they have no conscience. They literally care about their own ends, and they don't so much care about the means.
That is absolutely correct.
Okay, this is going to segue into our next session. This guy thought he was really smart by going around Harvard and asking students who they were voting for. Now, this gets into a major theme of this show, the difference between liberal and progressive. Because liberal back in the day doesn't mean what it does today.
Right.
Liberal today means neoliberal. Neoliberal means incrementalism. Neoliberal means safeguarding the capitalist system.
That's right.
Neoliberalism is not necessarily interested in large structural change. But these people are. This guy, I should give him credit. I'll check out his name in a minute. But Nick Swivel, I think is his name. He goes around Harvard, talks to a bunch of liberals, people who don't know what they're doing, and then meets a little bit of the older crowd. I think these might be juniors or seniors. And they drop some progressive knowledge right here, and he actually does give them a little credit. Check it out.
And this year we're going to have elections in 2024. Who do you think will be best to resolve this conflict?
Unfortunately, neither. You're dealing with either an alt-right extremist candidate or a closeted centrist of a Democrat that really isn't going to do anything because he's in bed with giving billions of funding and not allowing any sort of sanctions on that. So it's really tough. I mean, in our city, in our country right now, we have a really political system. If anybody remembers, Joe Biden was in 4th place after the New Hampshire primaries in 2020, and then all the other candidates except Bernie dropped out, backed.
See, he gives him credit.
In Joe Biden, and all of a sudden he was the #1 front runner. And in 2016, when we tried to bring a progressive candidate once again with Bernie Sanders, we ran into super delegates that Hillary was already going to win and was already ahead before we even got to California for the primaries. So when you're dealing with such a distorted scale of choices, either alt-right or kind of pretty much moderate Republican, maybe slightly left with Biden, you're not really going to get a lot done. So I definitely think that neither candidate is going to provide much hope for this situation. And what we're doing right now and whatnot across the country is the best way to sort of seek attention and activism and whatnot.
He was talking about Joe Biden being in bed with other countries. Do you think the politicians are currently trying to fund this crisis that's going on in the Middle East, or
trying? They are.
I don't even think it's a question if the military is funding it. There is obviously like $90 billion that has already been passed by Congress to go over there. And I think the rhetoric is that the military-industrial complex is protecting the United States or protecting the interests of Israel, but I fundamentally do not trust the agenda of the military-industrial complex.
Okay. If it gets down to Donald Trump and Joe Biden, who will you guys support?
There'll be a third party.
And I mean, I'm going to support who I always support, Vermin Supreme.
Yeah.
The #1 political candidate that offers everybody a free pony.
It said
and
it
if
was,
we're already going to throw away a vote to once again pretty much a centrist Democratic candidate that isn't doing anything. Where was all the police reform, Mr. Biden? Where was all the stuff you promised in 2020? Marijuana is legal in 30 to 40 states, but at this point, still no federal grip on that. And when it comes to the...
Do you know the tax revenue that the federal government could get if they nationally legalized weed?
Minimum wage when it comes to a lot of issues where inflation is kicking the living shit out of us, like $8 for eggs and whatnot, and we can't get a raise on the $7.85 national minimum wage. He's not.
Probably the best single issue that's not being talked about nearly enough is minimum wage.
Yeah, no kidding.
not doing anything. He's a puppet up there, and he's a puppet for other people that are already comfortable and settled and just trying to get their corporate backers happy. So neither of them. If anything, Bernie, come out of retirement. AOC, let's do this. Let's get in the game.
And also here in the United States, we received over 8 million, potentially up to 16 million migrants. What do you guys think about the migrant crisis that's going on here in America?
Is that even
I
true?
support open borders.
Hey,
Open borders.
there you go.
And why do you guys support open borders?
This isn't our country. This country was founded on genocide and culture and taking it from indigenous people. Whoever the wants to come here should be able to come here. Why did we get to come here? Why did my ancestors get to come here?
Yeah.
They were actually fleeing oppression of the UK. So it's just like this cycle repeats itself until it doesn't. This isn't our country. This is Turtle Island, and it belongs to indigenous people. And it wouldn't have been the United States of America if it wasn't for culture. And genocide.
A lot of the people that are coming out of the country.
I mean, I could have done without the rape culture label, because what does that even mean? It just means, rape is part of genocide, right? Isn't it? I mean, it's kind of implied. But hey, you got to make an exclamation point. Totally cool.
Yeah.
Don't know who they are,
Get
and they change their names
attention.
once they cross the border. You guys have any issues with that?
I mean, we don't know who's in this country.
Yeah.
Do you know how many shooters and serial killers and people in this country that are incredibly violent?
How many politicians are rapists who literally run our country and are here to keep us safe? And how many cops have been brutally hitting students, young children? Videos of children looking out the window, watching their friends get beat by adult grown men. What the
What do you guys think will be the solution to all this?
A spiritual revolution where people truly understand that we're all connected and that they are connected to their own bodies, because you wouldn't be able to violate the body of another person if you were connected to your own humanity and your own body.
That is actually
and so it's
very
a
true.
psychological heart spiritual revolution where we have to unprogram the psychology that we prioritize profit over humanity, over connection.
Yeah, selfishness
and
over
found some
empathy.
seniors.
Culture where profit is the main priority over connection, and in this capitalist culture where profit is the main priority, we're not going to be able to achieve that.
America's primarily a Christian country. Do you think
it's not.
more people need
It's
to
not.
start believing in Jesus and following his
No,
teachings?
Jesus is also a patriarchal story that has been co-opted by mainstream religion.
a ton of white people.
Yeah.
His literal name was Yeshua.
That's right.
That's not even his name.
Yeshua.
It's not
but
about
yeah.
institutional religious indoctrination of people trying
These-
to control them.
This
It's
is
about
what
a
I
genuine
say. This is
connection
what I'm
to,
saying.
The spirit and godliness in nature.
And the body. We were just talking about this morning, this genocide couldn't happen if it wasn't for the level of true disembodiment, which is also perpetuated by the prison industrial complex, the medical industrial complex, capitalism, the whole 9 yards. People aren't in their bodies, or they wouldn't be able to pretend like this isn't happening.
Do you think there is a current leader who could potentially become president that could solve these issues?
No.
It's about community.
No, it's not. It's not going to be a top-down
Yeah.
revolution.
There's
It-
no
Yeah,
savior.
ultimately,
because
yeah.
in hierarchy and in the current political system, everyone will be corrupted by money.
Money is the root of all evil?
It's not money, it's capitalism. Money is just a tool. Capitalism is a psychology and a consciousness.
Would we be
There
better
you go.
underneath
They're
socialism?
actually kinda nailing it.
Socialism is a political system. Communism is a political system. Capitalism is an economic system. So people get very confused when you talk about dismantling capitalism. That has nothing to do with communism. It has nothing to do with socialism. This is political
Yeah.
versus economic systems.
Yep.
And if we want to change an economic system, then we will have the imagination to form a political system that's actually about community and supporting the planet.
And so what do you do here?
Woo!
Yeah. Yeah. That's how it's done.
More of that.
Yeah.
Well done, Harvard. Yo, you want to go walk Harvard? That's what seniors talk like.
Yeah.
That's what senior philosophy majors and media majors and English majors
political science
and
science majors.
political science majors. That's what they sound like. You know why? Because they just did the homework.
Yeah. That's
They
all,
just
that's
did the
all
homework.
It
It's
takes.
they haven't forgotten the soul of education,
Yes. Yes.
which is that you are supposed to contribute to this pyramid of knowledge
yeah.
so that humanity can evolve socially.
Yeah, it really is about contribution and not taking from what you're being. It's not about just like taking handouts. It's not just about. Uh, I mean, it's the cliche. It's the JFK cliche. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. Community, build from the ground up. Empathize with people. Lend a helping hand. It's not you're. I mean, these kids don't go into college for themselves. They do it because they think they can utilize college and education as a tool to better their community around them, to better the world, no matter how small they think of an impact they might actually have.
Yeah, it's a great video. Those two women and that guy do really well. They're sharp, and I love how they're.
The guy talking to him, who exactly is he?
I'm gonna find out right now. So his name is Nick Shirley.
Nick Shirley.
He's got 100,000 subscribers. He had 1 million views on that video. He published it a month ago.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm not gonna overdo it with we're not gonna be a reaction channel and react to his whole video.
Sure.
Although it's very good. I highly recommend checking out his channel. Nick Shirley is, I don't agree with a lot of him. He's trying to say that he's a truth teller. One of those guys. You could tell he's conservative and trying to expose the thoughtless idiots. Because throughout that video, you'll see him go up to the younger students, the freshmen and the sophomores, who just declared a major or haven't even declared a major. So they don't know what the hell they're doing. And they're all just like, yeah, I'm voting Democrat, and they don't really know why. And it's like one of those conservative gotchas. And it's like, yeah, man, there's just as many Republicans who don't know what they're talking about with their politics.
Yeah.
Because if they did, they probably wouldn't vote Republican.
Right. Yeah, you can definitely tell he slants to the right. Like I can kind of pick up on that. But good video. More stuff like that. Let's actually hear what these crazy blue hair, wild, radical college kids have to say.
So do we want to go to some anti-Trump Republican testimonials, or let's talk about instead what cultural assumptions do we have to destroy to get to anti-Trump conservatives?
Yeah.
What do you think? I think number one is government is the problem. That has just absolutely oversimplified everything and made government the ultimate cop-out for all of the nation's problem. Almost like a scapegoat in a family.
Yeah.
Where there's scapegoat and there are different kinds of troubled families, but there's physical abuse, then there's verbal abuse, and there's narcissistic abuse, and there are often scapegoats in those kind of dysfunctional families. I wonder if, in terms of an institutional mosaic, government isn't the scapegoat. I think that's what Reagan did. He was a genius in that way, or whoever came up with that cliche, because I'm sure he probably didn't.
He definitely exacerbated. That's definitely true. It's like, because he even stated, the era of big government is over.
That was Clinton.
That was Clinton?
Yeah, that was the big concession. Yeah, the era of big government is over. No, the era of big government is over by Clinton is one of the greatest concessions in American political history, because just by saying that, he is conceding to conservative framing of government as big versus small.
Yeah.
And that's not the right way to think about government. It's efficient versus inefficient. It's effective versus ineffective. It's useful versus not useful. Like, those are the right framings. You need government to do certain things. And that gets me to one of my other points. These are in no particular order, but there are certain things only government can handle. And I think you can get that one. I think you can start. That might be a good starting point. I think a lot of anti-Trump conservatives will admit, like, oh, of course. And you go with the military and police and fire department, and then you get to healthcare, which is like, actually, I think there is, in terms of an issue, I think the anti-Trump conservatives are kind of coming around on healthcare. I know people who pay for their own health insurance are sick of it because we're getting ripped off.
Big time.
Tax cuts, this is in the same spirit as government is the problem. Tax cuts are the engine of the economy, or at least the spark of the economy. This is more Reagan. Ridiculous assumption. Absolute ridiculous assumption. And it was a political talking point that became a cultural assumption and has kind of destroyed the reputation of the federal government with respect to the average American.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. And, like, I have enough... It's not good for my mental health, but I have enough engagements with random conservatives on Facebook. A few who I regularly engage with. And it goes back to, like, oh, I don't believe in big government. This and that is government overreach. And a good example of this that kind of like just kind of pries open their thought process when it comes to this, and the simplicity of it was the recent blocking of legislation that the Democrats were putting forth. They wanted to pass something that protects contraceptives, and the GOP, the Senate, blocked that. I believe there's like an actual number of Republican senators that blocked protections for contraceptives. Because the Democrats were pushing through with that. And so when I was engaging with these conservatives, I asked them, like, why would they do this? Why not protect contraceptives from being sold on the free market? Like, why is the GOP interfering with this? And none of them really had a good answer. They talked about, well, this is obviously because they're saying, oh, well, what the Democrats are doing is government overreach. I'm like, they're not the ones banning it. The Republicans are the ones that are actively trying to ban contraceptives. It's beyond abortion. Abortion is just a cloak. They want to go after birth control. They want to go after
everything.
Yeah,
it's a slippery slope.
Yeah, they want to ban contraceptives from being sold. And it's like you wouldn't want to stop them from doing that, because that seems like government overreach to me. Banning something being sold on the free market, like it's what sense does that make?
Have you seen The Handmaid's Tale? Because that's where we're going if the Confederate Christian nationalists have their way.
Yeah, yeah.
That's where we're going.
It's amusing seeing them like just logically twist themselves in knots, trying to claim that it's the Democrats that are overreaching for protecting the market. You know, like
they want to instill their values into American society legally, governmentally, societally,
whatever,
socially, even on an individual level. They want us to have certain protocols about how we interact with one another, and it's not freedom. It's not freedom. It's the antithesis of freedom. Actually, it is, call it what it is. It's fascism.
Yep.
It's fascism for sure. So government is the problem. Tax cuts are the spark of the economy. Immigration is a problem, I think, is a big assumption by conservatives. They don't understand that immigration is good for the economy. And if you want to put it in layman's terms, the immigrants take all the jobs that no one else really wants to take. So thank them. Yeah. And I have confirmed through friends of mine who are the children of immigrants that the classic understanding of the immigrant mentality is correct. That they have accepted that their lives are going to be a grind, that there will be happiness here and there, but overall, it's going to be a grind, and they immigrated to provide for their kids. And their kids are going to have better lives than they do.
Yes.
So they're going to work pretty hard with that motivation. When someone's motivated by someone else as opposed to being motivated by themselves, that kind of mother-son or father-daughter or the others, that kind of blood connection will motivate people to go above and beyond. and work as hard as possible and be low maintenance as an employee. Part of being a good employee in a capitalist society is keeping your mouth shut. That's a big part of learning how to work in America is do your job, fill out the paperwork, punch the card. If you do complain, have a solution idea.
Yeah. No kidding. It's like my brother actually got fired from his job a couple months ago because I don't know. He's just a little nosy, and he thinks that like just poking into like the personal lives of other employees is acceptable, or just letting curiosity like get the best of you and whatnot. Like that's, but it was taken that can easily be misinterpreted, like intentions like this and that, and companies don't mess around with that at all, and they will take initiative, and they'll make any excuse they have to cut you off of the workforce. Like it's gross. It's frustrating more than anything, but especially I think it was mostly because in California they did raise the minimum wage of fast food workers to $20 an hour, and I'm sure you've seen the headlines. Multiple chains and corporations have been cutting thousands upon thousands of jobs, and it's sad, honestly, because they, on one hand, they brag about record profits rather, yet they still cut the workforce down. How do you reconcile that? Like, if you're going to brag about record profits, you can't compensate for that, like the raise in wages and whatnot. Like, why punish your workforce?
To meet the short-term quarterly gain expectations?
As if
something
that's
like that.
Like,
I've never owned a business, so I wouldn't know.
Of course, yeah. It's like, it's.
I don't know how they justify it, but they justify it. They do it because it's in their best interest. That's what I do know.
It's insane because it's like every single company and corporation and whatnot is like, oh, well, we have to exceed last quarter's profits. Why?
Right.
Like, what? If you're still
always have to grow.
Always
have to grow. Always be growing. ABG.
That's the toxic nature of capitalism. Endless growth. Like, at some point, it's just going to collapse. Any economic system based on infinite growth, especially based on finite resources, is bound to meet a very fatal end.
Call it an exploratory economy when it's healthy, because you're finding new resources and then you're exploiting them appropriately, and the nation is growing and we're finding new land or new projects or new technologies. And now I feel like we've kind of gotten there with everything. Now the latest technology that we're working on is commercial space flight, and there's this argument to be had, and the West Wing deals with it, about explorers. That we're explorers, and this is not my dichotomy of survivors versus explorers. This is the notion that America has to explore outer space. And I'm here to tell you that is not a priority.
It is not. Really,
and it shouldn't have been a priority for a really long time. This commercial spaceflight bullshit is such a waste of money. I can't stand it.
Yeah.
I wish that, free market, hey, if there's a demand for it and it makes money, it is creating jobs. But they're also like having to create airplanes to move the parts for the spaceship.
Like real special ones, yeah. Like uniquely for those jobs. Yeah.
They're creating microeconomies just to develop this new technology. I'm like, all so that people can go and have a few minutes in space? Right. This is ridiculous. What else could you be doing with this money?
Yeah.
And that just gives me hope, though, that the fact that that is taking place means that there is plenty of money out there to solve the world's problems.
Yeah.
There is
it's
plenty of money out there.
Properly.
It's just not being funneled the right way.
Yeah, exactly.
There is plenty of money to be had. We're just not funneling it the right way. Yeah. All right, so this is a big one in the small government anti-immigration, hopefully anti-Trump conservatives. Ready? Poor people aren't deadbeats.
Right.
And not every liberal or lefty is a loser looking for a handout.
Right.
A lot of people are just advocating for a fair competitive context.
That's right.
Or, I don't know, maybe a career where competition isn't everything. Work is good. You have a good life. Your basic needs are met. But you get to do what you love. Like, I don't know, elementary school teacher, high school teacher, take your pick.
Yeah.
There's a million jobs out there that people who love them should do and have a comfortable life.
Yeah.
You know, maybe not 2 homes, but enough to go 2 weeks worth of Airbnbs for the year or something like that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Just like we have programs for the military discount, we should have programs for teachers to get discounts.
Yeah, that would be amazing. We would really, I'd be a lot more proud of this country if we actually did that. Because it's like, not even most service members see deployment, or let alone combat, for crying it out loud. It's like, meanwhile, teachers are literally helping raise the next generation of kids. They're literally the most. They're pretty much as essential as the 2 nuclear parents or whatever. It's like a third parent of sorts, you know. They're fundamental, is what I'm trying to say.
Sure. Yeah. Poor people are not deadbeats. I think a basic one here, actually, this is kind of a cool turn that you might be able to do with an anti-Trump conservative, is you might be able to get them to agree that we need big change. You might be able to agree with that fundamental premise that things are so dysfunctional that we need big, systemic, structural change.
Yeah.
Now, the turn in that conversation, once you get them to agree to that, is we should not look to the past for the solutions.
Yeah.
Because at no point in human history has the world today existed even remotely close to the world even 20 years ago. Go pre 9/11 with it.
Yeah. There's no getting that. There's no getting that world back. Period.
No.
But
the internet, the phone, everything, it's all in the palm of your hand now. It's here. My point is that the next thing is flying cars, and my understanding is that that'll probably never happen.
Probably not.
At least not, and I don't think it necessarily should. By the way, I think we need to talk. I think we need to have an honest conversation about. Well, I don't know if I want to go here right now. No, we're not going to go there right now. I'll tease it. Tease it. I'm not gonna go. I want to talk with you offline before we broach that one because that's a big one.
Sure.
Gun laws are not invasive.
That's right.
I think you could. My whole thesis. I'm finally going to get to do the gun episode this week. If you're a responsible gun owner, you should have no problem with stricter gun laws. They won't apply to you. I also think there's a creative way to involve police officers in uniform with regulating guns in their local communities. So anyway, but that's just another episode as well. So that's one thing about guns I don't think that conservatives understand is that we're not trying to take the guns. We recognize we're not going to get the guns back, or at least I do. There's too many of them. It's just we've lost that battle.
Not to mention, like, some of us actually are kind of pro-gun ourselves to an extent. I mean, obviously, like, in a sensible way, like background checks, red flag laws, domestic violence, convicts should not be allowed to own, like, absolutely not. But yeah, like, there are literally, like, socialist rifle associations. There are progressives that actually, like, own guns themselves. Like, it's not this niche thing. Like I mean, sure, you'll get liberals that are like, oh, just take all the guns. Like, there shouldn't be any guns. Blah blah blah. Like,
not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. It's
not going to happen.
It's inconceivable. I mean, for one, there are more guns in this country than there are people, and for two, like, any schmuck with a 3D printer can make just, like, a couple different components that they need to actually, like, assemble one, and bada bing, bada boom, you have one. Like, you're not going to be able to enforce a seizure of every weapon in this country. Like, sure, you'll have, like, buyback incentives and whatnot, but, like, to think that any of that would be, like, mandatory, like, under like penalty, that's, like, really, it's gonna be really, really, really hard to enforce. Like, so it's just not even worth the hassle, you know.
I'm going to get into it in my next scripted episode, which will come out during the Republican National Convention. Oh, yeah. Wait for the Republican National Convention week, dude. I'm going to have a big sequence of content come out that I've decided I'm going to just release it in a big chunk to honor my understanding of conservatism, and then it's going to kind of trickle out from there in the weeks following. But there's going to be a huge kind of release of content during the Republican National Convention in June.
Yeah.
Or sorry, in July. But yeah, the all the messaging seems to be consistent. I agree with everything you just said.
Yeah.
I think we can get them to not look to the past for the solutions. I think you can also get them there. I think you can really get them there. And then there are some positive cultural assumptions that I would like to insert into the anti-Trump conservative. Oh, and by the way, I think responsible gun owners might actually be intellectually accessible on gun reform. Because when they go to the gun range, let's do some empathetic arithmetic. When they go to the gun range, they know, or at least if they go regularly, they'll run into someone or they'll hear stories about gun nuts. Mm-hmm. And then that'll help them think of the lone gunman. That's the one we're all worried about. Come on, even if you own a gun, you are still worried about the crazy lone gunman, especially if he's got an automatic weapon. Yeah. So those people actually are, I think, a little bit more intellectually accessible than outsiders might have you believe.
Right.
Here are some positive cultural assumptions that I'd like to inject into the anti-Trump conservative culture. Number one, we can learn from other countries. We can learn how other countries solve similar problems, especially in urban and suburban culture and society. How to better enforce the law, for example. I know countries where cops don't even wear guns. Well, there's a lot of countries where cops don't wear guns.
Yeah.
And they have batons and shields and stuff. It can depend on the area.
It's crazy to think about sometimes. And it's like most of, if not all of these countries, never have mass shootings.
Right.
Yeah.
It's very rare. It's very rare.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's one thing that I think a lot of lefties will shy away from is the comparison between the U.S. and other countries. I don't think we should. I don't think we should. And I think we should be qualifying everything with nobody gets it right. Nobody gets everything right.
Of course.
Would Norway function as well as it does if it didn't have a huge natural resource in offshore oil drilling?
Right. Yeah.
No. If they didn't have all of that backbone of an economy, no way. That's why Sweden is like kind of the Mexico of Scandinavia, they say. That's not fair. Whatever that means.
Right.
Oh, here we go. Yes. So Thunderbird is calling up. This is Kyle Kalinske gets credit for this. He points this out very consistently and made me aware of the language. Establishing of a well-regulated militia would be a genuine source of legislative honor to execute the laws of the Union, suppress insurrections, and repeal invasions. In 1794. Yeah. The well-regulated militia part of the Second Amendment is what matters most and doesn't get talked enough about. And credit to the Democrat neoliberals for not highlighting regulated militia in the rhetoric surrounding tragedy. It seems like their MO, their traditional way of dealing with challenges and crises, is to not deal with them.
Right.
And to let just the conservatives take the narrative and run with it and act like they're too good to get down into the dirt and fight for really the truth, right? Because we know the right-wing media is not going to tell the truth.
Yeah, no kidding. Especially when you consider, like, I think the left can actually, like, benefit from this. Like, utilizing and weaponizing the words of the founders to their advantage against these MAGA types, against extremists that would pull something like a January 6th. The ones that actually have actually never read the Constitution, don't actually care about anything that it actually says, because, like, just like that quote right there, a well-regulated militia. I mean, that's right there in the Second Amendment as well. So it's like, I think it is like the responsibility of the country's citizenry when an insurrection becomes when one occurs, to quell it. You know, like. That goes beyond, like, obviously, like, authority, security, National Guard, law enforcement, and whatnot. Like, the citizenry as well. Like, they should be involved in that. Like, obviously, like, gun nuts ruin it. Gun nuts ruin something like that potentially blossoming, because a lot of these, these gun-toting. These gun nuts, they like the aesthetic of it rather than what it actually means to wield the responsibility of owning a gun and what it means for serving your country in a way, for lack of a better phrasing.
All right, you want to hear from a anti-Trump conservative himself? Listen to this guy.
Sure.
Oh, I'm David, and I'm from Madison, Wisconsin. I was an alternate delegate to the 2016 National Republican Convention in Cleveland. I did vote for Donald Trump in 2020. Never again. I think he disqualified himself by leading the insurrection on January 6th. I thought he had a successful presidency, but he's had a horrific post-presidency. He led the mob against the Constitution, really, in trying to overturn a duly elected president. He lost. And January 6th is a disgrace, a stain on our history. As General Mark Milley said, we swear an oath to the Constitution. Donald Trump's already said what he thinks about the Constitution, and it's not good. We can't elect a man like that who doesn't respect the Constitution. The Constitution is above us all. The president takes an oath to defend the Constitution. He has promised to subvert the Constitution. I'm a conservative Republican, and I believe in rule of law. I believe in the Constitution, and I believe in free and open elections and being a good loser when you lose. Donald Trump lost.
Yeah.
All right.
Period.
That's one guy. I don't know. Do you want to do? Actually, let's see if we can get another guy. It gives me that. I think that guy might be accessible if you can get him past government is the problem.
Yeah.
This gets them. This gets a lot of
My
conservatives.
name is Kim. I'm from South Carolina, and I am a former Trump voter. And I have been a Republican my whole life. I think Trump was responsible for the violence on January 6th, he is absolutely 100% responsible. Donald Trump expressing his wish to terminate the Constitution is one of the most egregious things I think you could even do. I'm very worried about a second Trump term.
So you know what conservatives or you know what hardcore MAGA fans would say to that? Oh, he was just kidding.
Yeah.
That's what they would say to that.
Yeah, it's like...
he's just kidding. He wouldn't actually terminate the Constitution. Like, I don't know, man. I'm pretty sure he would.
Term I hear that he's putting or working with people who have been convicted of felonies, people who don't believe that there was violence on January 6th. I think he would totally upend our departments, for example, the Department of Justice. I think he would manipulate everything so it works for him and only him and not the people of the United States.
Correct.
And that scares me. Whether you're pro-life or not pro-life, I do not believe the overturning of Roe versus Wade was a positive thing for the country. I am adamantly against women not being able to control what happens to their own bodies. I think that's between the woman, her God, her doctor, and her family. And I don't believe government has a place in that.
Whoa. It's not, but except for her family, it's not anyone's business but the woman's.
Yeah.
It's not the family's. Yeah.
Yeah.
Donald Trump's view on national abortion.
When you bring up like big government to conservatives, like the ones on Facebook that I was mentioning earlier, when you bring up the fact that like overturning Roe versus Wade, meaning the states, the government can get involved in the health care of a woman. That's government overreach. That's big government. Like, they should not have a say whether or not you should be forced to carry a pregnancy to term. It's not up to you. That's like not like it has no effect on you personally. Neither does like any other crime that someone commits that you're not like a victim of. It's not. That was the law of the land for all this time, and now the government steps in and is not only going after women's right to choose, but contraception as well. It's yeah.
Abortion ban is I think it demonstrates his lack of understanding and also his ego.
Yeah.
When he says things like, well, I'm thinking about a 15-week ban, maybe a 16-week, just because it's a round number. I just don't understand that. And that's just, no. I mean,
what's to understand? He's an idiot.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not complicated. He's a narcissistic dumbass.
Literally.
Bully.
Like, just
he's a stupid, selfish, entitled, narcissistic bully. It's not that complicated.
I find if you look up what a narcissist is and learn about how they act and like how they think.
Oh, I know a lot about narcissists.
Yeah, like
I can tell you.
Not only narcissists but fascists as well.
Narcissistic fascists?
You'd be able to predict a lot of Trump's behavior. Like it's part and parcel with that of a narcissist or that of a fascist. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, well, people have been calling him a narcissist for a long time. The great question I have about narcissism is it conditioned or, well, I suppose it's always conditioned, but is it conditioned at an early life or can it be conditioned later in life? Because usually people don't really necessarily change in fundamental ways as they get older, but if people do change, they usually become more extreme versions of themselves. But anyway, let's get back to this lovely lady, Kim from South Carolina, who doesn't get it. He doesn't.
He will do whatever somebody tells him to do, or whatever will get him what he needs at that moment. In 2024, I will definitely not be voting for Donald Trump. I will be voting for...
There's something to be learned, though, the way she just talked about that. This is the way a lot of people think, is like they try to frame up the person's personality. Listen to her.
Yeah, that. And that's just... No. I mean, he will do whatever somebody tells him to do or whatever will get him what he needs at that moment.
That's exactly correct. That is exactly right.
It's interesting that she even thinks about him like that instead of just looking at the policies and saying, wow, this all really hurt America.
Yeah.
She cares more about the way the guy thinks, probably because she's self-aware enough, not stupid, not ignorant, but self-aware enough to know that she doesn't understand how to manage the relationship between the federal government and the private sector in any kind of sophisticated way. She's expecting the president to be able to do that.
Yeah, if you have no confidence in the president's ability to do that, then obviously, like, how can you even think of supporting someone like that?
Kim.
In 2024, I will definitely not be voting for Donald Trump. I will be voting for Joe Biden. And I'll do it enthusiastically at this point.
Yeah, good for her.
Oh, that's lovely, Kim.
Yeah.
That's lovely. Are we had enough? I mean, I've got 3 viewers, so I'm tempted to keep going because they say they might be digging this, they might not be. I don't know.
It's
talk in the chat, guys. Let's hear from you. This
is definitely encouraging. For lack of a better word. Yeah, I.
Oh, this guy looks fun. Hold on.
I'm a Republican of 50 years. I'm as conservative as anyone in our party, but I will be voting against Trump this year. I cheered him on in 2016 and reluctantly in 2020, but he lost me completely the night that he started the whole Stop the Steal campaign talk, and that rhetoric really rubbed me wrong. But I'm fine with questioning results, recounts, all that's great, but you better have bulletproof evidence to claim it was stolen. Otherwise, all you're doing is harming democracy. And this stolen election theme has now become a core tenet of the GOP to even be considered Republican. So it's really shameful. But I really didn't turn angry until evidence of this whole fake elector scheme started to unravel and become discovered, where he tried to steal an election and these fake slates of electors, and to this idea of throwing our Constitution into a crisis, our whole country. And so if anyone hasn't examined the fake elector scheme, please look at.
They tried to rape our democracy. Do not hesitate to use that word, man, because they did. The Republican rapists of democracy.
The details. It is the most treasonous act against our Constitution and our country's history. And so luckily our republic survived, but letting Trump back in the White House is like letting the fox guard the hen house. Our democracy is too precious. The evidence of Trump's guilt is overwhelming, of his tampering of the election. I didn't need a conviction to know OJ was guilty, and I don't need a conviction to know that Trump tried to overthrow our democracy. He is the greatest threat to our republic, and I'm going to place all of my conservative views aside for the sake of saving our country by voting blue this year for the first time in my life. It's a shame.
Yeah.
All right, Spencer.
Yeah,
Spencer from Utah.
Yeah. It says
actually a smart guy. Strikes me as a thinker.
Yeah.
Strikes me as the kind of guy you would maybe strike up a conversation with at a bar and actually have a half decent conversation with.
Yeah, I mean, it does go.
As long as you don't talk politics and the free market. Oh, get the government out. Get the government out of this market. It is a free market. The more unregulated, the better.
Yeah.
All right, let's wrap it up. And what do you got for me? You were going to say something.
It's just hard. Like some Republicans really are too far gone if they're still at this point in the game where they are just locked into these conspiracy theories that they don't deviate from these lies. Like Trump will literally tell you anything you want to hear, and he lies like hell. Like period. It's in his best interest.
He's a bad salesman.
He's
just a bad salesman.
He's already lost I mean all sorts of things. But he knows that his ability to bullshit people is waning because of the past 4 years. He keeps losing. He doesn't have evidence to support his claims. There's nothing there. Yet there are still some MAGA types, some Republicans that are just so convinced that something's gonna come up, or like it's all rigged, or they're hiding the truth, and this and that. It's you really can't help these people.
No, you can't. No, you can't.
Yeah.
They're just, and that's my whole thesis is that the politics of compromise are over.
Yeah,
the politics of conquest have arrived. This is about destroying the Republican Party. This is about politically euthanizing the Republican Party as we know it today, because it is implicitly supporting all the things that we just heard about.
Yeah, that
it is defending. It's actually trying to act as if he did win.
Yeah.
They're continuing to push the big lie.
Yeah.
And act as if Trump won 2020, and it's like, no, he lost.
Yeah.
Get over it.
And they're so scared of him. He's actively threatening their careers. Like, you need to say that you thought 2020 was stolen, or else I'm not going to throw my support behind you. Or you need to endorse me for president, during these primaries or whatever. And a lot of them don't really have any choice, because you can't win a primary without Trump, but you can't win a general with him, and his candidates keep losing. Like,
right.
I imagine it's a really frustrating position to be in, because it's like a lot of them know that he's completely full of shit and doesn't have anything, but also he has the ability to ruin their chances regardless. So it's like a catch-22. It's like a lose-lose situation. He still has such a grip over the party and its future, and his perception within the party, I suppose, that it's corroding the party alive.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, with that, I think an hour is about good for me. And if you have any parting thoughts, I'll let you have that wonderful last word.
Sure. If any of you live in the Midwest, we got a big. Well, I say we. I'm not from the Midwest, but there's a gigantic heat wave that is going to threaten millions and millions of people next week. We're talking about 100-degree weather for days and days on end. It's not going to be pretty. We're talking expanding from Minnesota down to North Carolina, up through the Great Lakes. It's down into the deep south. It's going to be quite miserable. So stay hydrated. Don't go outside very often unless you have to. It's going to be bad.
All right. Thank you for tuning in. We are reminding you that you don't get change in America by asking nicely. Everybody take care. We will be back Thursday night sometime around 6:30, 7 p.m. Pacific.
Guys,
all right, y'all. Take care.